Hello and welcome back to Just Meg Elise, a podcast about healing, remembering who you are, and diving into deeper alignment. I'm Meg, and each week I'm going to share these soul work, self-reflections, and healing modalities that have helped me in the hopes that they help you too. Since June 21st was International Yoga Day, I wanted to discuss the 8 pillars of yoga. It's not just asana, which is technically our physical practice. It's so much more than that, and I wanted to dive in deeper. Yoga isn't all about flexibility or fitness. It's a path to self-connection, regulation, and inner peace. And with International Yoga Day that just passed, I wanted to explore the 8 limbs of yoga and how they guide us to heal from the inside out. So first there's what's called the yamas. This is restraint or ethics. So this means nonviolence and truthfulness. So trying to live our life with as much peace as possible, as much nonviolence as possible, and as much truthfulness as possible. I really try and embody the truthfulness satya, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, part of yama, which is trying to be truthful in all aspects. But I also keep in mind that sometimes full truthfulness isn't helpful if it's going to exacerbate the situation or hurt someone's feelings. I try and always keep that in mind. But especially the nonviolence, it's living from a place of trying to solve arguments and disagreements with nonviolence, including between countries, and not advocating for things like war and violence between us. Also, an application to ourselves, this can be choosing to speak to ourselves kindly and honoring our own truth and keeping boundaries with ourselves and being brutally honest with ourselves about the things we need to work on, about our traumas, etc. The second limb of yoga is called niyama, which is our personal practice. This involves self-discipline, self-study, and surrender. Just like how I just talked about speaking kind to ourselves, this would also embody that as well. It's our personal practices with ourselves. It's working on healing. It's working on how we interact with the world. It's working on our own inner mindset, all of those things. The third limb is asana. So this is the one that you guys are probably most familiar with. This is the yoga physical practice. So the postures and that sort of thing. But this also goes beyond movement. It's reconnecting with our body. I am a certified yoga instructor. I was certified in 2016. And I remember, especially when I was in yoga teacher training, doing some of the postures, and when you're in perfect alignment with that posture, especially like a warrior pose, I swear there's this moment, and maybe some of you can confirm this with me who have done yoga, there's a moment when you get into the perfect posture that there's almost like this zing of electricity that comes over you. And I equate it to aligning the chakras. That's what I think is happening in the body. Because people have honed these practices over so many years of practicing yoga and practicing asana and recognizing that when the spine is in certain alignment, or the arms are also in alignment, or the legs are in a certain position, it brings about change in the body, whether that's our muscles relax or our mind relaxes or the chakras aligned or there's healing in the body, whatever it is. They have honed these things over time. Those poses that they put you in during yoga, they're not just nothing. They're not something somebody made up. They've been honed over years, thousands of years of practice. So we brought yoga over from India to the Western world, and now we practice yoga regularly, but it's kind of lost a little bit of its meaning and a little bit of its history. But it's not just physical postures, it's movement that helps us connect back to our bodies and regulate our emotions and all of the things. So one thing that I started doing when I'm practicing yoga is I'll ask myself, how can I let this movement be intuitive, not performative? Because one thing that I've noticed when we're in asana classes is sometimes the ego starts to get involved. Let's say you're really good at a certain posture in yoga. And so when you do that posture, you find yourself looking around the room like comparing it to everybody else. But that's not the point of yoga. We shouldn't be participating in the comparison during class. It should be focusing in on our own inner body. How is this feeling inside me? How can I move intuitively? How is this helping me? How can I use this to realign my chakras and get back in connection with my body and my intuition and my energy, and use it as a healing tool? That's what I like to remind myself of when I'm practicing asana or physical yoga. So the next one, number 4, would be pranayama. This is one of my favorites. This is also known as breathwork. So prana is something that they refer to as our life force. And our life force is sustained through what? Our breath. If we don't have our breath, we don't have our life. And there is such a deep connection between the breath and breath work and the nervous system. When I was just talking to somebody else about this, evolutionarily, let's say we are prey being chased by a predator. Let's say we found a hiding spot and we're trying to hide from that predator. Our breath becomes very shallow and very low so that the predator doesn't hear us. So when we're sitting in anxiety or when we're having an anxious moment or a stressful moment, our breath becomes very shallow, very low. We're breathing like this, trying to stay out of danger. So then once animals were free of that predator, they started breathing deeply again, breathing normally again, which was a signal to the body that they're safe. So we can do the same thing. When we say affirmations, we're instructing the mind, this is what I want to think. This is the new thought that I want to think, instead of the old programmed thought patterns. But when we're practicing breath work, it's the body telling the mind, I am safe. When we practice breath work, especially when we're doing a deep inhale and the exhale is longer than the inhale, it's signaling to the body, to the parasympathetic nervous system, that we're safe to relax. So you immediately feel the effects of that in your body. When you do breath work, anybody that's practiced breath work, and maybe we'll do a little bit of that right now, you'll notice the effects. You'll notice that your body starts to relax and the muscles start to relax and there's a sense of ease that comes over you. That is the body telling the mind, I'm safe, by practicing this. Because if you weren't safe, you wouldn't be practicing that breath. If you were still a prey being chased by a predator, you wouldn't be doing deep breathing. You would be trying to hide. So when you're safe, you're able to do that deep breathing, and it's again signaling to the body, we're good right now. Everything's okay. And I do want to do a little bit of breath work with you. If you're someone who's a seasoned meditator of breath work, this is still going to be helpful to you. We're just going to do a deep inhale and a slow exhale, and I'll call it the circular breath because we're going to hold at the top of the inhale for just a moment and then exhale slowly. So take a nice deep inhale, fill up the lungs completely, hold for just a moment, and exhale slowly, very, very slowly. Try and make that exhale twice as long as your inhale was. Perfect. Now inhale once more. Hold at the top of the inhale. And exhale slowly again, very slowly. Perfect. Inhale once more. Hold. Exhale slowly again. And return to normal breath. Beautiful. See if you can notice if that changed anything in the body. For me, I felt my shoulders relaxing down. I felt my chest getting a little less tight. I felt just this warm sense of calm wash over me. And that took, 30 seconds for us to do? 45 seconds at most? And so this tool we have at our disposal all the time, we tend to not utilize it, but what if we did? What if we started utilizing it more to signal to the body, I'm safe, everything's okay right now? We can use our breath as an anchor during triggering stressful or anxious moments. Moving on to number 5. This is called pratyahara. This is the withdrawal of the senses. It's turning inward to reduce overwhelm. This is when we unplug, when we do a sensory rest, or when we do like an inner child check-in. Then number 6 is dharana, which is concentration. This would be practicing focus and presence. So this could be during meditation, or maybe you're repeating a mantra, or focused journaling, but focusing on whatever you're doing. And then for number 7, we have dhyana, which is meditative absorption. So this is our meditation practice. And it's not just a practice, it's embodiment. It's trying to bring in micro moments of mindfulness throughout our day. So even when we're washing the dishes, that can be a meditation, focusing fully on the warm water, on the soap touching our fingers, on the bubbles, on the rainbows that the bubbles make inside of our sink. All of those things. Focusing fully on that moment can also be a meditative experience. I heard one of my teachers one time explain that literally everything can be a meditative experience, and I think about that all the time. Even slipping your shoes on, just focusing fully on putting your foot in your shoes and putting the foot in the other shoes, and how do your shoes feel, and how does the air feel around you, everything, just being so present in every moment. I am going to caveat that with, it is very hard to be present in every single moment, especially with the lives that we live. We have to-do lists, we have tasks, we have family, we have stressors, we're at work, we can't be fully present all the time. So how I integrate these practices into my own life is, like I said, micro moments of mindfulness. And I also tie it to something else. Like, I know when I take my dog out into my backyard to go to the bathroom, I will sit on my porch and I'll try and be fully present while she's out there doing her thing. And I'll meditate just looking at the grass or just listening to the wind or listening to the birds. And I know that is my 5 minutes that I take for myself every time she goes outside to be fully present and connect back with myself. And you can choose any moment like that where you want to say, okay, this is the moment where I connect back with myself. It doesn't have to be 24/7. It can just be micro moments throughout the day. And then the very last one is called Samadhi, which is union or bliss. This is transcendent connection to all life, where peace goes beyond ego. How I like to integrate this practice is, in every moment, I try and remember that I am connected to everybody else. We talked about this in a previous episode. Our atoms that make us up, the atoms that make up this microphone, this chair, the walls, our car, everything, we see it as separate, but atoms are mostly empty space. They're like 99% empty space. So from our perspective, it all feels like these things are solid and separate from us, right? But they're not. We are all just this big vegetable soup. Everything is interconnected with everybody else. Not only are we interconnected, but I also think that, and this is just my opinion, when we die, we return to a divine source energy that we are all a part of. We're just projecting our consciousness down right now to experience this life. We are all connected. We are all drops of the same ocean. So I try and remember that when I get angry with somebody or when I judge somebody else. I think, Megan, you're judging yourself. You're judging another aspect of yourself, another piece of yourself. And so it allows me to drop that judgment in that moment and bring more compassion into that situation. So I also created some journaling prompts for each limb if you wanted to dive into this a little bit deeper. And again, journaling prompts, they don't have to mean taking pen and paper old school to a journal. They could just be answering it to yourself right now when I ask the question. Or if you'd like to go more in depth, you can also record a voice memo to answer some of these things. But just right now, as I ask the journaling prompt question, see if you can answer it in your head. So for Yama, am I speaking to myself in a way that would honor my inner child? Are you speaking to yourself in a way that would honor your inner child? If the answer is no, how can we change that? How can we flip that? Next time you make a mistake, speaking to yourself as if you are that inner child, because you are. They are still inside you, and speaking to them with loving kindness. For Niyama, what part of me is asking to be seen with compassion today? For Asana, how can I move my body intuitively instead of performatively? And maybe you can ask yourself this before you walk into your next yoga practice. For pranayama, again, breathwork. What breathwork practice best brings me back to myself with ease? So there are so many different breathwork practices, and I've taught a few on here. My favorite is the 4-7-8 breath. When I'm feeling stressed, I inhale for a count of 4, I hold for a count of 7, and I exhale for a count of 8, and I do that 4 times. And it really has a profound shift within my body. That's why I love it so much. And it's so simple, it's so easy. And I love that really anybody could do it. But finding your favorite, another favorite of mine is Nadi Shodhana, where you switch nostrils. You inhale, switch, exhale. Inhale, switch, exhale. That is also a favorite of mine. I'll do that in like traffic if I'm feeling really stressed and maybe sitting in a bunch of traffic. So the next one is pratyahara, sensory withdrawal. When do I feel most overstimulated, and what helps me return back to myself? Thinking on that, and then the next time you become overstimulated, maybe trying to practice that thing that helps bring you back to yourself. And it's going to be different for every person. Maybe it's breath work, maybe it's listening to your favorite music, maybe it's walking outside, maybe it's petting your dog or your cat, whatever it is, but finding that thing for you. Dharana. What practice or ritual helps me return to the now? So finding what that is for you. For me, it's being in nature. I feel like, I don't know why I'm about to cry. I feel like being in nature helps to remind us that nature doesn't rush, and we don't need to either. Like, nature never rushes, but everything still gets done. And I think when we're sitting in nature, we're reminded of that. It's even though it's not being like blatantly said to us, but we're reminded when we're sitting in nature and everything is slow and peaceful and beautiful, that we can be that way as well, that we don't have to rush all the time, that we don't have to be so hard on ourselves. We can just allow ourselves to be, and that itself is beautiful. Moving on to the next one, Diana. What emotion in me wants to be witnessed right now? And seeing what comes up. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you're worried about something in your life. Naming that and allowing yourself to feel any emotions that come up. We've talked about this before, but I'm going to mention it quickly again. What I do when a tough emotion comes up is I ask myself, where am I feeling this in my body? A lot of times it's in my chest or in my stomach, especially if it's like anxiety, I'll feel it a lot in my stomach. So I place my hand on that area and I just try and breathe into that area. So I almost like imagine the breath as an energy flowing to that area of the body. And then as I exhale, that energy or that tightness, that tension dispels from the body. And then I just allow whatever comes up to come up. I sit there in that moment. If tears want to come up, I cry. If I want to journal about it, I journal. If I want to scream into a pillow, I scream into a pillow. I just allow whatever comes up to be there and allow it to express itself. And the last one, Sumadhi, which is union or bliss. When have I felt most connected to myself or something greater than myself? Maybe the answer is when you're in nature. I think that's definitely the answer for me. Maybe it's when you're among friends or family, or when you're practicing a certain spiritual practice. Maybe it's at night when you're standing underneath the stars, finding what it is for you and trying to practice that more. So I encourage you to just pick one limb of the 8 limbs of yoga and see if you can dive in a little bit deeper this week and try out the journal prompts that I offered, see if it helps. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're wanting to go deeper on your healing journey, there are so many different ways to connect. And everything I mention is going to be linked below in the show description notes. My book, Don't You Dare, is available for purchase on Amazon. If you want to learn more about the ego voice and dive into shadow work, I think it's a beautiful tool for that. I also have my most loved meditation bundle. These are my highest rated meditations over the years. That's also linked below for purchase. My new course called the Affirmation Reset course is now available. This course helps us to rewire negative and limiting beliefs. I also offer one-on-one coaching and hypnotherapy services. If you're interested in a session with me, please visit my website, meganshirey.com, meganshirey.com. I teach a free live guided meditation every Sunday morning on the Insight Timer app at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 Central, 8 Mountain, 7 Pacific. So hopefully you can join us there. I'm also teaching a breathwork and journaling class once a month. The next one starts on July 17th. It's Thursday at 7 Eastern, which would be 6 Central, 5 Mountain, 4 Pacific. And please also join us on Patreon for exclusive meditations, behind-the-scenes reflections, and a soft healing community space. And again, if you're interested in any one of these, they're going to be linked below in the show description notes. If you like these episodes, please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and please leave us a review. It helps us to expand this community. May you be happy, may you be well, may you be joyous and at ease, sending you infinite love and light, and until next time.